Hello. Okay. Room at the table, which we will hear in a minute, begins with, "Let our hearts not be hardened for those living on the margin." There is room at the table for everyone. A great many of us joined our UU community because they felt marginalized and found an accepting community. Now there are others at our doors seeking belonging. Will we see these others as us? Today, after the service, we will have our congregational meeting where we will vote to affirm our commitment to ensure there is room at the table for everyone.
Would you please rise in body and our spirit and join us on singing the refrain today, which goes like this. There is room at the table for everyone. Sing it again. There is room at the table for everyone. There it is. Here we go.
Let our hearts not be hardened, living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone. There is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new world in. This is how it all begins. There is room at the table for everyone. There is a room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come and pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come and pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come and pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. Let our hearts not be burdened by those on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Woo.
Good morning. My name is Ed Derringer. I'm the president of your Board of Trustees. A couple of quick announcements. We have the meeting this afternoon at noon So we need everyone that possible that are members to stay and join in participating in the vote process. It is your congregational vote. It is so it is important that we have our congregation quorum here at 80 folks, so what our quorum will be. The second announcement is the October 26th organizational strategies for great leaders. So it's a leadership development workshop. It is on the back in your order of service to get signed up. You may have noticed, so whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you're welcome here. All people of goodwill are warmly invited to join us on the great journey of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. If this is your first time with us today, please let the offering basket pass you by. Your presence is gift enough. We hope you will join us for coffee and conversation in the community room after service. We would love to get to know you and answer any questions you might have. You can also visit the informational table next to the exit from the community room. Today, the offering is donated to an organization from the Denver community, which has been chosen by the Giving and Action team. All cash and checks will be donated in full unless designated otherwise. We'll learn more about that organization chosen for the Sunday's offering later in the service. If you're looking for ways to engage with our community and support the work of our congregation, please visit the opportunities table at the back of the community room after service. There are a variety of activities that would welcome more helping hands. We would love to match you with an opportunity that interests you. Please remember to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. Welcome to service. And at the moment, we have a question to talk to your neighbor about while we make our transition. Can you let the person next to you know what are you most proud of? That's it. Sorry, as I'm stammering. What are you most proud of? Speak.
Whoever you are, wherever you are welcome here. Oh.
Good morning, First Unitarian. Two very short things before we do our welcome song. One is that I have learned that what we are normally able to park at the small parking lot at the center, just on the other side of Colfax. I have learned just now that they are actually towing us if we're not part of their event. It's normally fine, but sometimes they have events. Today they have an event. So if you happen to be parked at the center this morning, you might want to go move your car. Yeah. Sorry about that. What? Oh, just we have parking passes in the office. You're fine if you're in the parking lot. It's only if you're parked at the center on the other side of Colfax. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's the only concern. The other thing is just Ed neglected to mention, if you're staying for the congregational meeting and you want to vote, you have to register. And there'll be a table in the back. You just go to the table and tell them who you are, and they'll cross your name off the membership list and hand you a ballot. Thank you.
Now, whoever you are, wherever you are, you are welcome here. Would you please join us in singing our welcome song? We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you. Welcome.
Good morning, First Unitarian. Our call to worship today is an excerpt from David Foster Wallace' This Is Water. The so-called real world will not discourage you from operating on your default setting. Because the so-called real world of men and money and power hums merrily along in a pool of fear and anger and frustration and craving and worship of self. Our own present culture has harnessed these forces in ways that have yielded extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal freedoms. The freedom all to be lords of our tiny, skull-sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. This kind of freedom has much to recommend it. But of course, there are all different kinds of freedom. And the kind that is most precious, you will not hear much talk about in the great outside world of wanting and achieving. The really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline, and being able truly to care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in myriad, petty, unsexy ways every day. That is real freedom. That is being educated and understanding how to think. The alternative is unconsciousness, the default setting, the rat race, the constant gnawing sense of having had and lost some infinite thing.
It's of note that this song is over 20 years old. White people are so scared of black people. They bulldoze out to the country and put up houses on little loop-de-loop streets. Well, America got its heart cut right out of its chest. The Berlin Wall still runs down Main Street, separating East Side from West. Nothing is stirring, not even a mouse in the boarded up stores and the broken down houses. So they hang colorful banners off all the street lamps just to prove they've got no manners, no mercy and no sense. And I'm wondering what it will take for my city to rise. First we admit our mistakes, and then we open our eyes. The ghost of old buildings are haunting parking lots in the city of good neighbors where history forgot.
first time I saw someone lying on the cold street, I thought, can't just walk past here. This can't just be true. But I learned by example to just keep moving my feet. It's amazing the things that we all learn to do. So we're led by denial like lambs to the slaughter, serving empires of silence. Carbonated sugar water in the old farm road to 4-lane that leads to the mall, and our dreams are all guillotines waiting to fall. And I'm wondering what it will take for my country to rise. First we admit our mistakes, and then we open our eyes. The nation succumbs to one last dumb decision. America the beautiful is just one big subdivision. Oh, 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 oh,
Good morning again, First Unitarian. I hardly ever get to do the children's time, so I'm really excited I get to do the children's time. Could I invite the children to come on down here and join me so I can see you and talk to you for a minute? It's Liza. How you doing? Good to see you. Cool. Thank you for coming down to see me. I am so glad to see you. So, whoa. So I want to tell you something a little bit about me, which is that just like you guys, I grew up in a Unitarian Universalist church. And I will confess to you, we went to Sunday school classes, and I don't remember hardly any of it. But there's a couple things I do remember really vividly. One was that many times, not every Sunday, but many times, my family would go to church, and my parents would go into the room with all the adults, and me and the other kids would get put into a car or a van or somewhere, and we would go out into the city. We lived in Chicago, and we would go to a soup kitchen and serve soup to people who were homeless. Or we would go to a recycling drive and pull glass and cardboard out of garbage and then put it into recycling bins. Or we would go to a nursing home and sing songs to people who were aged and couldn't get out much. That's what I remember. I grew up thinking that religion was when you got together with your friends and you went out and helped somebody. That's what that was. So I don't remember Sunday school, but I remember that. And the other thing that I remember, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, they taught us a song. And I don't hear it very much anymore, but this was a long time ago. This was the 1960s. And the song they taught us was a song that had its origins in Germany in the 1800s, and it was a protest song. And then it came back in Germany during the 1930s at a very difficult time in Germany. And again, it was sung as a protest song. And that's the song they taught me, and that's the song I want to teach you right now. And it had some motions that went with it. I don't remember them very well, but I'm going to do my best. So it was, my thoughts are as free as wind o'er the ocean, and no one can see their form or their motion. No hunter can find them, no trap ever bind them. My lips may be still, but I think what I will. That song just became really important to me throughout my whole childhood, that my thoughts were free no matter what was happening to me. And frankly, I remember you could make me sit in a classroom, but you can't make me like it. You can make me do my chores, but you can't stop me from thinking whatever I want to think while I'm doing my chores. Right? That song just became really important to me. So let's try it one more time together. And everybody is welcome to join in. My thoughts are as free as wind o'er the ocean, and no one can see their form or their motion. No hunter can bind them, no trap ever bind them. My lips may be still, but I think what I will. Thank you so much. I have so loved being up here with you. And now we're going to sing you out to your classes.
Good morning. So my name is Betty Cooner, and I serve on the Giving and Action Committee at First Unitarian. The Giving and Action, excuse me, I was afraid of this. The Giving and Action Committee has the pleasure of meeting with local organizations in the community that have indicated the need for our support. The Giving and Action recipient for this Sunday's collection plate is A Precious Child, an organization that has been doing good work in the community since 2008, and which you will hear about in just a moment. As we all know, these are challenging times for nonprofits, not only because their funding is being challenged, but our core values are also being challenged. So this morning, I'm so pleased to introduce Charlene Frick, who is the Senior Development Director for A Precious Child, and she's here to tell us more about the work of their organization. If you would like to learn more about their work after the presentation or have some questions for Charlene, please join us in the community room after the service. And with that, please consider supporting A Precious Child as generously as you can, and extend a warm welcome to Charlene.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for welcoming me here today. I'm going to move this up a little. I kind of wish I wore my ghost costume, too. That's pretty cool. So I've been with the organization 7 years. A Precious Child, we're about 17 years old. We started in a garage with somebody who went to church like this one and just wanted to find a way to do good in their community. That first year, they served 54 children out of their garage, just collecting warm coats and school supplies. Fast forward, last year we served more than 50,000 children across 8 counties. We have 7 Cradle to Career programs. Our goal is really to help children fill in the gaps as they grow. We do it a little bit uniquely. We actually partner with more than 300 agencies, whether it's schools, churches, human service organizations, hospitals, that they're identifying the children that they do good work with, and they're referring them to us to fill in the gaps. Each child and their family meets with a family advocate who identify the needs that they have, whether it's housing, food, clothing, support for sports and arts, and those kind of things. And whatever we don't provide on site, we're able to refer them back out into the community to wrap around the children full circle. I actually am doing things a little bit different This week, I put together a few stories from actually some of the agency partners and children we serve. I can talk a lot about facts, but I think this means a little bit more because there's so many organizations that do really good work in the community, and this is a little bit coming from the stories that we see every day. We serve up to 40 families every day in our headquarters, and then we have about 30 community distributions a month, as well as the services and bulk distribution we provide out to our community service partners. So far this year, we've served over 38,000 children. And here's one of the testimonies from one of our schools. I just wanted to send a big thank you to you and your staff today. The family displaced by the fire was incredibly moved by your kind gesture, and it definitely made a huge difference for them. All 3 children now have multiple changes of clothes, more diapers for the baby, blankets, and are no longer sleeping on the floor. You all do amazing work over there, and I wish I could properly put into words how helpful this was today. You have a wonderful program over there, and thank you for all the kind things you do for the community. You're truly a marvelous group of people, and I can't thank you enough. So far this year, we've also distributed more than 650,000 diapers, more than 60,000 pounds of clothes, 375,000 pounds of essentials, being clothing, food, and other necessities that help fill in those gaps. We also just distributed more than 11,000 backpacks full of school supplies. Yeah, that's a big number. This was from another agency partner. Many of the kids we serve have been impacted by serious trauma, like sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, or other violent crimes. Most come from low-income homes or families going through incredibly difficult times where even basic needs can be hard to meet. Thanks to your program, children who arrive at our center during some of the hardest moments in their lives leave with more than just school supplies. They leave with a sense of comfort, dignity, and hope. The backpacks are packed with tools they need to feel prepared for school, but they also send a bigger message. They matter, and people care about them. For parents and caregivers who are already juggling so much, this extra support takes one worry off their plate, and it helps bring a little more stability to family in crisis and gives our team a chance to support each other and each child, not just in their healing, but in building confidence and getting back to being a kid. Our last program I'll share with you is our Give Access program. It helps children get in sports, extracurricular activities, arts, and some extra education tools like tutoring. My name is Jesus. I'm 15 years old, and I'm in 9th grade. My biggest motivation is football. I use football as a coping mechanism for my stress and anxiety. A couple of things that I like to do is spend quality time with my family. I would like to get this scholarship because my family struggles a lot with money, and could also help me succeed and help me advance further up. For me, becoming a professional soccer player is more than a dream. When I was a kid, my grandpa would always watch my cousins and I play our games. He would always tell me, my cousins, that he knows that we one day would make it pro. He would always support us, but he passed away 2 weeks ago. And my grandpa was one of my motivations, and now he's gone. I will never stop until I make it. My mom also supports me a lot when it comes to football, but unfortunately she can't afford to pay the funds because she isn't working, because she is taking care of my little baby brother, and also since she is also the only one that is there for me. I would one day like to make my mother proud, since she has given everything for me and my siblings. My biggest dream is to one day become a professional soccer player, and without the scholarship, I don't think I would be able to go forward. So I really hope that you can consider giving me a scholarship so that you guys can help me fulfill my dream and make my family proud. Thank you. And this year so far, we've been able to provide almost 10,000 children with sports equipment, as well as give scholarships to 77 children and 700 groups, art scholarships to 11 children and 96 groups, and education scholarships to 3 individuals, including homeschoolers and 150 other groups. So there's a lot of work to be done. And again, we serve thousands of children, and those are just a few of the reasons that we do what we do. I also happen to be a single mom. that comes from a cycle of addiction and homelessness. And I can tell you that your support matters more than you know. I am now the Senior Development Director of a Precious Child, and I can tell you poverty is not cookie cutter. You never know what the person next to you is going through, but it also, you don't have to be on the other side of what you're going through before you turn around and help the person next to you. So just keep that in mind as you guys think and pray on how are you going to give today and in the next weeks. This could be your first day here, your 100th day here, but you are here for a reason and here to hear these words today. So thank you guys so much for having us. I can talk stats in the back and also answer any other questions you guys have. Thank you.
Your gifts, freely given, gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity to support the work of one of our fabulous partner organizations. While I'm up here, I want to give a couple invitations to things that are happening in our community, some more ways that you can help live in and help us live into our deepest shared values together. So tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Geo Detention Center in Aurora. Some of you know where this is. It's on 30th Ave off of Peoria Street. We'll have our weekly vigil calling for the release of Jeanette Vizgara, as well as just honoring all the folks who've been detained and deported. And our own Immigration Justice Project is co-leading, co-sponsoring that tomorrow. So please do be there, 6 p.m. And then next Sunday, we're going to have our annual Autumn Remembrance service. So this is our service where we honor all those who have departed, our loved ones who have become ancestors. So if you have a photo or something that you want to put on our altar, we're going to make an altar to honor our departed loved ones. And so if you have a photo, please do bring that so we can honor them, put them on the altar. We'll have options if you forget, like me, but we do encourage you to bring those if you have them. And now, as we turn our attention to our time of prayer, I want to lift up a couple things in our community and in the world. Our own Lewis Thompson is out of the hospital and is now at a rehab facility where he's expected to be for about 6 weeks. It's the Julia Temple Healthcare Center in Englewood. He welcomes calls. You just have to call the main number there. We want to continue holding all those who are affected by our federal government shutdown. Federal workers, some of them furloughed, some of them threatened that they will not receive back pay for work they've been doing right now. All those who rely on government programs and food assistance, and all those worried about things like healthcare subsidies and prices going up. And of course, we continue to hold Gaza and the fragile ceasefire there. This past week, it brought reports of Hamas cracking down on opposition, potentially through executions within Gaza. It brought reports of Israel returning Palestinian bodies with signs of beatings and torture and perhaps also executions. And it also has brought news today of Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, strikes that have killed at least 11 people and which are threatening the very fragile ceasefire that does exist. And Israel has used this unrest to justify continuing to keep closed the Rafah border crossing, which means that no aid will be entering into Gaza. So I think I speak for all of us when I say that the killing has to stop, that aid must be allowed to flow freely, and that peace must be allowed to prosper. Amen. As we continue to hold all of that and everything else on our hearts this morning, would you join me now in a moment of prayer and meditation? I invite you to take a deep breath in and just let it out. Spirit of love, God of many names and beyond all naming. Truly, we live in a time of both horrors and hope. May we continue to have the courage and the compassion to bear witness to the horrors of our world and of our time. May we never allow ourselves to become fully numbed to our own fears, nor the suffering of those most in harm's way. May we reach out to one another with sweet tenderness and loving compassion, remembering that these are, after all, the only true antidotes to hate and to violence. And Spirit, at the same time, may we never become so focused on the hate and the horrors that we lose sight of the glimmers of hope all around us. The hope
given to us by the millions of Americans, the masses who answered the moral call and took to the streets yesterday, in the cities, in the towns, in the suburbs, and beyond, denouncing our nation's slide into authoritarianism, saying, "No kings." May we find hope in the advocates and the organizers working tirelessly to protect immigrants and trans folks and all those who are most at risk in this country. May we find hope in the activists across the world bearing witness to and calling for interventions to end the horrors our world faces. May we learn from one another. May we learn from the prophets in this room and across the globe, remembering that mass demonstrations are a beginning and an invitation to deeper relationship and further commitments, to the work of justice that so often doesn't make it onto the nightly news, but without which we cannot hope to achieve liberation. And may we aid one another in cultivating that hope, providing support and succor as we seek to bring the horrors of our world to an end. May this be so, and amen.
As the choir comes up, I invite you to meditate on the words in the song, which fit perfectly into Michael's prayer, that there's some call to action that is more about arms open. And I think it's beautiful that we get to reflect on both after the protests yesterday, that there's also calls to action that help us become community and become one.
We refuse to let
Thank you so much. That was great. Okay. I'm going to invite you to honor your body for this moment, and if you care to, just stand up and stretch for a bit. Just a minute. So, this will be one of those sermons that needs a brief listener's advisory up front. I'm very aware, I am, that there are people in this room right now who have come here hoping for and deserving spiritual comfort. I swear to you that does happen here on a regular basis. But that is not this particular sermon. This sermon is going to deal with some difficult and complex issues of our difficult and complex time. And I personally believe all of this is profoundly spiritual. But at least for today, I would not use the word comforting for what I'm going to share. Secondly, and just a reminder, just to be clear, not one thing I say implies in any way that anyone here actually agrees with me or that you should. We clear? Okay. That's the advisory. Here goes. The historical event that most overshadowed my own childhood was the Vietnam War. It was going on when I was born in 1961 and dominated the news with body counts all through my adolescence. Briefly interrupted by the assassinations of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Senator Bobby Kennedy just 2 months apart in 1968. My father, along with a number of men in our Unitarian Universalist Church, were marching members of Veterans for Peace, an organization that still exists. My older sisters at that time, both of them adolescent wannabe hippies, both wore bracelets with the names of soldiers on them. And I remember letters going back and forth. It was mysterious and it was kind of scary that some of the older boys and some of the older brothers of my friends in the neighborhood would just sort of vanish periodically when they graduated high school and were drafted into the Army. Like here one day and then just gone. I remember being confused, not fully comprehending, when I learned that some of those older brothers, people I'd seen my whole life in the neighborhood, would not be coming home. In all ways, it was clear to me that that war was a very bad thing. But in another way, on a different level, I was actually pretty familiar with violence. In my immediate neighborhood in Chicago, gang activity was more rumored than immediately present, but we all knew where the boundaries were. We all knew the names of the people to avoid. And we knew, like, being tough was just essential. My sisters remember pulling me out of fistfights in the schoolyard on a regular basis. And I knew I was tough. More importantly, my neighborhood knew I was tough because I had proved it over and over again. Even when I lost, I could feel pretty good about it if I'd put up a good one. In 8th grade, the older brother of one of my friends was shot dead in a park about 3 blocks from our house. Violence was just part of the fabric of life in the city, like buses or corner drugstores. It's just there. And if someone had told me a definition of pacifism back then, I would have thought that about the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. Like, how would you even survive? Later, as a young adult, I understood much more. Sometime in my 20s, I went on a binge for about 2 years, and I read every single book about the Vietnam War that I could find. First-hand accounts, geopolitical analysis, academic histories, and many, many more. I learned that as bad as I thought it was so much worse. I became a pacifist during that time in my life, just contemplating the monumental stupidity, the shameless lies, the unforgivable cruelty, the inconceivable cost of that conflict in resources, dollars, lives, and environmental destruction made disgust rise in my soul. Disgust. Sickening. How could humans be that stupid? Amen? There had to be a better way. I started reading books about nonviolence, and I loved everything I read. Though, to be honest, there always seemed to be a missing piece somehow. Some foundational flaw in nonviolence that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And for the record, the difference between pacifism and nonviolence is that pacifism is a moral philosophy that violence is always morally wrong, while nonviolence is a method rather than a philosophy. It's a method for achieving specific goals. Around 1962, I wasn't reading the newspaper in 1962, but I learned this later. About 1962, our government started using a phrase called strategic pacification. Strategic pacification is a military, but it's also a social, economic, and educational and psychological. So in addition to bombs and soldiers and helicopters in Vietnam, they used propaganda. They tried to build schools and roads and water systems. They built fortified enclaves where Vietnamese who were friendly to America could have farms and towns and economies that would let them live safely from the Viet Cong. Those enclaves failed miserably, by the way. Later, they would apply that same phrase, strategic pacification, to us at home, here in the United States, using lies and propaganda in hopes of quelling a growing resistance to the war among our own citizens. And just as an aside, if you ever need an example of why we need a free press, look no further than the Vietnam War. Without a free press, you and I and our parents would never have seen the photos and the film from Vietnam that dramatically changed public opinion about that war by the late 1960s. Strategic pacification is precisely what we tried to do again in Iraq and again in Afghanistan, with remarkable persistence and very little success. Correctly identifying that we were, in fact, fighting a battle for hearts and minds, and utterly clueless to the fact that neither of those countries wanted what we were selling, or at least weren't interested in buying it from us, with the strings we were attaching to it and our frankly miserable record of ruthless self-interest. Mark Nucleus is a British historian and philosopher whose specialty is how countries, states, and corporations and other powerful entities seek to pacify whole populations. It's a fascinating field of study. He notes that every occupying force in history has tried in one way or another to pacify the people that they have conquered, but it wasn't until the colonial age and the globalization of extractive European capitalism, including both genocide and slavery, that pacification became an identified system of intentional expansion. Here's a quote. Pacification needs to be understood not just as a military action to crush the enemy insurgency, but also as a broader and far-reaching action to construct a new social order. Such an order would be one in which insurgency would not and could not occur, but it would also be an order in which capitalist accumulation might flourish. The quote goes on here. The underlying motivation has always been the coercive, often brutal imposition of capitalist property relations through primitive accumulation. And in this sense, contemporary pacification is the ideological iron fist within the velvet glove. Aimed at the continued forcible expropriation of the people through a whole series of thefts, outrages, and popular misery. Not only was a system of pacification required to curtail subsistence, but as one 18th century nobleman put it, the lower classes must be kept poor or they will never be industrious. The extraction of surplus, as Adam Smith admits, can be squeezed out of the laborer by violence only, not by any interest of his own, if he can subsist otherwise through such things as access to communal land. This, in short, is the foundational bourgeois logic for the compulsion to pacify. Unquote. Now, in case you missed it, that passage I just quoted states the quiet part of the original American Constitution out loud. The so-called founding fathers never intended to create a free society with democratic governance. Ever. And I am very aware that what I'm saying is not what we were all taught in our public educations. But the real motivations of people like George Washington and James Madison and Thomas Jefferson and so many others was really just to get the crown out of their way when it came to acquiring more land and more wealth. Right? That's where we got that phrase, right? A rich man's war, but a poor man's battle. And they were willing to wage that war and sacrifice thousands of working people to get that economic opportunity. They had no interest in ending slavery. They had no interest in allowing women to vote, or any system that would include communal lands or communal resources on which or from which free people might make their own living. Like good pacifiers, they dressed it up in flowery language of freedom and the pursuit of happiness, but the basic structure of private property, private equity, private banking, wage and chattel slavery, all of it enforced with a threat of state violence, was left entirely intact. Entirely. A direct carryover from European aristocracy, but with a different name. I submit to you that the system of extractive capitalism based on an inherent class system of haves and have-nots is the most successful large-scale pacification the world has ever seen. So successful that most of us don't even know we've been intentionally pacified. Amen? We don't even know we have been intentionally pacified. All of us. All right. I'm going to digress here for just a moment to answer a question that might very well be on your minds at this moment. Like, okay, Mike, that's interesting and arguably true, but like, why are we talking about that in church? That's not what I came for. I came for spiritual comfort. Well, I'm so glad you asked. You see, religion, in my way of thinking at least, not original to me, certainly not. Religion is about healing and about liberation. Those two things, healing and liberation. Healing, the wounds that vex the body and soul of living things, materially, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, and liberating both ourselves and others from the unnecessary bindings and limitations imposed on the bodies and souls of all living things. Healing and liberation, materially, emotionally, socially, spiritually. We cannot liberate ourselves from something we can't even identify. Something we don't even know or realize is literally keeping us in chains. Beyond that, as people of faith, we have to try to live in this world. And we have to make moral decisions with as much moral clarity as we can discern. It's pretty hard to have moral clarity about a system if we don't understand how that system works. That's partially what I'm up here doing today, I hope. We have moral decisions to make about our lives, about our loves, about our communities, about our loyalties. Moral decisions that will only become more poignant as our country continues to march ever further into violent, oligarchical, fascist kleptocracy. Which leads me to now, like right now. If you are not aware, you should be. There are only two reasons for sending armed, masked, unidentified federal agents into our cities. Not for 1 second should anyone believe it has anything to do with crime or immigration. It is an exercise of public muscle flexing, normalizing the previously unthinkable with the intent to first intimidate and frighten. Fear is a primary tactic of strategic pacification. Second, obvious to me at least, they are hoping to provoke a violent response. That's what this is about. Sooner or later, one of those masked federal agents is going to get shot or run over or are seriously injured from an assault, and that will justify a whole new level of forceful control, more invasive techniques, stricter rules for the public, and the deployment of ever more armed, masked, unaccountable agents of a fascist state. That is only one fairly obvious example. But once you begin to see the actions of this administration through the lens of strategic pacification, you will see that everything they have done and continue to do makes perfect sense on every level. Even the government shutdown, which they have instigated and are privately reveling in, fulfills many goals of strategic pacification. It scares government employees. It helps to ensure future compliance and discourage whistleblowing. It hampers many government functions, which, when they become painful, they will take credit for restoring. It severely weakens the many institutions and groups within the government that might put the brakes on or at least slow down the autocratic takeover of those institutions. All this and more is happening right before our eyes. Strategic pacification. One other thing about strategic pacification. It always involves violence or the threat of violence. Always. Material, emotional, social, or spiritual. And just one of the many fascinating things about this is that it uses the threat of violence, all the while promising that if we go along with it, that is what will prevent the violence and chaos that we fear. Isn't that interesting? How many times have we heard from leaders, pundits, or talking heads of both parties that democracy is not broken? Trust the process. Don't give up. Most of all, don't get violence in response. It will all work out. It will all work out the way it should because democracy is strong and the founders built this genius system that if we will just go along with it and work with it, it will lead to the best results. I submit to you that is a myth. That is a ploy. That is propaganda. Nothing more than another tool of strategic pacification to keep us compliant and cooperative while extractive capitalism continues to run our lives and decimate the planet. Isn't it also interesting that the same institutions reassuring us that violence is counterproductive and violence is to be avoided at all costs, that exact same system is constantly at war with something? Trying to sell us a false sense of security with a war on crime or a war on drugs or a war on poverty or an actual war with another country or right now a war against immigrants or a war against an enemy within like DEI or CRT or radical leftists or Democrats or an imaginary Antifa. I'm aware I'm laying kind of a lot on you this morning. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to think about. It's kind of a weight to carry. Once you're aware of something, it's kind of hard to put that genie back in the bottle. I'm aware of that. I'm going to close with just a couple other thoughts. I kind of hate to say it, but I'm not a pacifist anymore. As much as I try, as seductive as pacifism feels, as much as I have preached it in the past, I keep running into a couple of brick walls, and I'll tell you what they are. First, I appreciate history. I'm not a professional historian, just an amateur wannabe, whatever. But the history of fascism clearly shows this. Obedience won't save you, and complicity won't protect you. Ask any of the former employees of the Third Reich, the Viet Cong, the Kremlin, or our current president. No one is safe. Obedience will not save you, and complicity will not protect you. All exceptions to that are temporary. That's how fascism works. I'm not denigrating the method or methods of nonviolence. For right now, nonviolence is the only sane option. And I personally, I will keep other options on the table, even as I preach nonviolence and practice nonviolence. Secondly, and I'm going to close with this, the great American thinker, agitator, and prophet, Frederick Douglass, spoke these words in 1857. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the roar of its mighty waters. The struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one. It may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Find out just what a people will submit to, and you have found the exact amount of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue until they are resisted with either words or blows or both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those they oppress. Thank you.
I feel led to invite you to sing the chorus of our next piece with us. It goes like this. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. So please join us when you hear that refrain.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. That which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I can but shed some light as they carry us through the gale.
The older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light to shine on me. I need to be one on a number as we stand against tyranny.
Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way our struggle survives. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. Sometimes I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Would you please join us in singing our closing affirmation?
Friends, be noble, for you come from the stars. Be humble, for you are made of the earth. And be kind, for you belong to each other. Amen. Our service is ended. Go in peace.